Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the SPINcast. I am your host, Gray. Joining me today is Jacquie Lamm from Minnesota State University, Mankato. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, pleasure to have you on. Obviously, of course, we've interviewed a bunch of people over our time from a variety of different programs. And oftentimes, while people do share the same titles like head coach or director or administrator of some capacity, what's most interesting to me and us to a large degree is how people got involved in that industry or in that program, and how kind of what was your entry into esports as a whole. So kind of take us through how you got involved with that program.
Sure. Well, I've been a gamer my whole life, and I was starting my master's degree at Minnesota State Mankato, and during that, I got the opportunity to create a fake research project, and it was supposed to be something I was passionate about and passionate about gaming. So I ended up creating high school and university esports programs, just kind of just something to do, and through that, the school was just starting to really notice esports. We were just having discussions, and I got pulled into those to help advise on the creation of the program and what titles to do. And it was about a 2-year process. Towards the end, I got really heavily involved, and there was a lot of involvement with students and some of our RSO clubs. But I got the opportunity to apply for the job, and I took it, and I got it, and I'm very thankful.
Heck yeah. No, that's awesome. A fake research project.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was it? Just you know, like you decided to just run with something and ended up turning it like basically, so like your idea of like a research project basically turned into the spawn of your esports career as a
It
whole.
was. If it wasn't for that one class, I don't think I would have pursued esports as a opportunity as heavily as I did. So I'm just really thankful for that one class and that teacher, and just that I now have a career, and it's a dream job for me to be working in a video game industry.
What class was it?
It was actually research and design for my master's in educational leadership.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's directly applicable to kind of what you're doing now, obviously.
Mhm.
And I think to a large degree is what a lot of people are realizing now is how many of those, I guess, traditional degree paths, things that are directly applicable to a specific field can be immediately translated into esports. And I think you kind of found that out by proxy just by taking that one class and kind of getting to that point. So that's really cool to hear, because I mean, for me myself, it took me until I was 24 years old to find an industry that I felt that I could like thrive in and be a part of with some passion. And I know for a lot of the younger generation that they're still struggling to kind of find their niche and figure out their way and maneuver things throughout the industry as a whole, or kind of find their entry into it. So it's really cool to hear that you kind of did that all by yourself. You were just like, hey, here's the chance. I'm just going to run with it.
Yeah, esports in general is just, it's so new that there's not a whole lot of degrees for specifically esports, but really there's a lot of teams like pro teams that are really trying to let people know about the back end and how much production actually takes. So, they need accountants, they need business managers, they need marketing. There's just so many opportunities for students that they don't specifically need to be a pro player. They can go into just about anything and still be in the esports field.
Totally. I mean, there's marketing, there's business, there's sales, there's I mean leadership in general. I mean, there's so many IT. There's
Mhm.
so many things across the board that are so directly applicable. I just think it's taking some time for I guess the industry to catch up to the fact that of letting people know that that's the case. Um,
Yeah.
it's not so much of like you don't have to be such an opportunist, I guess, to seize what it is to be in esports. There's kind of you just have to maybe dig a little bit harder and search a little bit harder than you would necessarily getting a job at your local recruiting agency. So tell us a little bit more about your program. What games and competitions do you guys currently compete in? I saw that you guys are, of course, a member of NACE, which is unsurprising, a big conglomerate over there. They, of course, run a lot of excellent tournaments and events. But what are some of the games you guys are competing in? What are some of the main competitions that you guys focus on?
Sure. Our program hasn't officially started. We were recruiting this fall, and then we'll officially be in League of Legends, CS:GO, and Rocket League. So our League of Legends team will compete in Riot's conference, and CLAO, our CS:GO team will compete in NACE's conference, and then our Rocket League team, we just got affiliated with the UEA, and that's just a different conference, and I was really excited to find that one. We weren't even sure we were going to have a third team, but through promoting the official varsity club or team, the students came forward and I found really good players, and I'm really excited for them.
Heck yeah. No, that's awesome. Big titles to get into, obviously. I mean, just between CSGO and League of Legends, those are two of the most long-standing esports titles just in general of the last decade. And then Rocket League, in my personal opinion, it's considered like a tier 3 esport, but I think that's crazy. I think it should be a tier 2 at least, just from a pure accessibility standpoint. But how many people did you have? Like, obviously, I'm sure you fill out a full roster for each game plus some subs. Um, how like how many people did you have, I guess, when you guys announced that you were doing varsity? Because it sounds like you're more or less surprised that you were able to find enough people for that third team. So I guess how many people did you have reach out to you guys and be like, hey, we want to be a part of this, like we want to try out for your team?
Sure. So initially we had about 125 students reach out with interest to be on a varsity level team. We can't have everyone just because we want skill and grade level, and there's just so many things that we look for. We also don't want to stretch ourselves so thin the first year. But we had two really big clubs, the League of Legends club and the CSGO club, and that's how we knew for sure that we would be able to host those in the spring.
That's awesome. So for people that I guess aren't as aware of what it actually is to be a part of collegiate esports, whether that's from a directing standpoint, a coaching standpoint, or simply as a player, as an esports athlete, take us through, I guess, kind of what your daily responsibilities are and kind of what your overarching, responsibilities are to the program as a whole. Because obviously your title is, of course, the head coach, but that could mean a variety of different things for a variety of different programs. So what are your key responsibilities and how, I guess, do you make everything work?
Sure, and that's just such a great way to phrase it too. There's just so many different things that a head coach can be doing. Daily, I look over new recruits, potentially through Be Recruited or through Twitch, or people who reach out to us. I'm also reaching out to high school students to see if they would want to come have an interview with an admissions counselor. I'm also looking for other competitions on the off season for our players to be in, and then setting them up for all of those on Battlefly or on Smash.gg or just local universities. But then also trying to get handbooks done, trying to get everyone signed that their letters of intent, just a bunch of administration work too. I would love to have the opportunity to play the games with the students, but I don't always get that. So
What was your game of choice? What did you play?
Warzone. I'm a COD player. I'm
Okay.
hopefully gonna have one in the fall of 2021, a team. So that would be another dream for me.
We have a lot of COD people in the office.
Yeah.
My my COD career started and ended with the Modern Warfare series. Modern Warfare 1 and 2 were kind of like my wheelhouse back in the day. Which now that I think about it, was basically a decade ago, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Correct.
we have a bunch of COD people in the office and people we work with all the time. So we're super tight with a lot of those people in the community. I love seeing that it's entering into the collegiate space because I think that's one of the most long-standing professional esports titles for a reason. So I think it's only worthy that the collegiate space kind of follows suit with that. Um, so obviously you have taken more of a, I guess, kind of administrative role, right? Whereas a lot of coaches would, or a lot of directors of programs would maybe let's say, like outsource the daily tasks for each team. They would have like some general oversight for the program, but then they would, bring in people to coach for specific games or like how to approach those different things. Given that you are doing a lot of those things yourself, what are some, I guess, some struggles or some hurdles that you face, whether it be new to the industry in terms from a professional standpoint, or buy-in from the college itself, or lack of manpower? I guess what are some struggles that you see taking place in your program that aren't that I guess would necessarily surprise people?
Definitely trying to find the time to do everything. Three titles is a lot. I just had a meeting with Joe from CDW. I was part of the Intel Combine this last week. They had a lot of really great webinars, and just three titles is a lot for any one person. And trying to not stretch yourself thin. I do have a couple assistant coaches coming in and a manager. They're all students for the spring semester, so I'm really grateful that they're offering the volunteer time. But then trying to find all the tournaments and just register everyone, track people down. It's really a full-time job that you have to find hours, and students have class, they have their own jobs, so their hours are definitely different than mine. Just trying to meet up with everyone for a 15-minute chat is sometimes a struggle too.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's probably sometimes. I would say it's probably most of the time. That's the scheduling conflicts become very real very quickly, I'm sure. So you mentioned obviously that you go through Be Recruited a lot, which is no surprise. And that's one of the main sources for people to find recruits. But the common theme for that from what we found is that it takes a lot more legwork and grunt work of the person using the site to be able to like verify information, track down the student. But you said something else that was interesting, that you do a lot of your recruiting from Twitch, which I'm very curious as to how exactly you go about doing that.
I just troll channels. I'm just looking for anyone who might be in high school or even a college setting. Not everyone has their camera on, so you just got to listen to people and then start interacting with their chats, asking them what their goals are for if they're going to go to college, or if they're already in college, if they would want to be on a varsity team. It's actually fun because you're getting paid to look through a Twitch stream, so it's just a different aspect of trying to recruit people.
Has that been successful so far to a large degree?
Yeah, I've actually found a couple of local students and then one up from the University of Duluth too.
That's awesome.
For
That's so
yeah.
cool.
Yep.
That's like, so like I'm a big proponent of like, we should look to run the esports industry that's very unconventional from traditional business and in very unconventional ways. I think that's the most adequate way to approach a lot of um, the best way to approach a lot of the problems that we face in the esports industry is to do so in unconventional ways. Given that it is such a new space, it's very untraditional. There's not a lot of groundwork being laid yet so far that would lend itself towards somebody coming in and being able to thrive in that structure, to say the least. So it excites me to hear that you found success using Twitch as a recruiting platform, because I think that's such a cool way to do it. And that also supports, I mean, just the pure content visibility piece of esports in general, which is arguably the most profitable. So the fact that you were able to do that and find some success and find some talent from that and able to recruit from Twitch, I think that's so cool. Um,
Thanks.
so well done there. But I guess what are your short-term goals with your program? Obviously, long-term, you want the program to grow as quickly as possible and be as successful as possible in the long run, so that it just continues to become this machine that just feeds upon itself and just grows and grows and grows and gives people the access to the opportunity that we all want. But I guess, what are your short-term goals as you're looking into, the end of COVID, the 2021 season and so on? What are your goals for your program?
Definitely getting the students in our training facility. We have a brand new facility that not everyone gets to use because of COVID. We can only have 7 students in, and it's actually closed over the winter break because of how COVID has impacted our local area. So no one can even be in there right now. We have 8 Alienware PCs that are just sitting and collecting dust right now, and I really want people to be able to be in there because not every student has a high-end PC. Some of them have cracked screens, they have low-end graphics, and they just can't play the game to the best of their ability. So being able to get into the facility and have them practice is definitely a short-term goal for me.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Obviously, I've seen some pictures and some videos of your arena and your facilities. It's really impressive, and that's unfortunately, I mean, one of the common themes of 2020 so far is that like we can't really all hang out in the same place and see each other as much. Which for a lot of us esports people that thrive on that in-person engagement and the events and the lands and being able to utilize those facilities, it does become a struggle. And I'm sure once that opens back up, that you'll have, I mean, worlds and worlds of opportunities to be able to do so many different things with that. And I'm excited to see what you guys do, of course. Um, so one of my favorite things about esports in general is that, unlike a traditional sports setting, you have the opportunity for people of all walks of life and various backgrounds to be able to enter into the space with a seemingly equal opportunity, right? Like if you're 5'1" and you're trying to go play in the NBA, like you're gonna have some struggles, right? But it doesn't matter, what gender you are, what race you are, how tall you are, what you look like. You can have success in the esports industry. So I'm curious if there's ways in which you've seen that, I guess, breaking of barriers and like, the decreasing of those barriers to entry, or like the lack of discrimination being broken down in your program as a whole. Obviously you are a woman in esports running a program, which is, of course, in itself a showing that barrier to entry is is decreasing for esports. But I'm curious if you've seen other ways in which that's manifested itself in your program.
Oh yeah, that's great. Esports is very inclusive. You don't need to see the person's face or even their picture. I still don't know who some of my players are because I've never actually met them. It's more just about the skill level. If it's Rocket League, can they hit those goals? If it's League, can they get the Dragon and the Baron? It's just you don't need to see them physically to know if they're good or not. You can watch their VODs, you can watch their streams, you can even just hop on a Discord chat and have them stream it for you. And we have several women who are on the league RSO teams, and I think that's great that it's not just that they're women, it's about their skill level. And esports is very inclusive and just I I'm excited to see what's down the line and see how people adapt to everyone's thought process of it just being so inclusive.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And, I think one of the glaring things for me is that, you take something that thrives off of the internet, which let's face it, the internet right now isn't exactly, you know, lacking in hostility. It has plenty of it, and there's plenty of bad energy out there on the internet. And it's interesting to me that something that thrives off of that space is able to become such an inclusive and beneficial part to a lot of people simply because of the nature of it, right? Um, and so that's super good to hear that that you have people of all walks of life across your program, but that it's able to benefit you as a whole, right? Because if the best player is the best player regardless of who they are, what they look like, their race or their gender. And it's good that you guys have been able to capitalize on that so far. So that's of course awesome to hear. Now, I'm curious, as an esports professional and somebody that works in the space and understands it to a large degree, and to the point that you're able to be successful. I'm curious, what hurdles does the esports industry as a whole need to address in order to gain the large scale attention and notoriety and, I guess, backing from the general population that that we all think it deserves? How do you think we get to that point?
I actually really like this question. So myself and others have been discussing how to improve this a lot lately. And one thing is to not be pulling students straight from high school. The pros, I feel like they should have a streamline from going from high school to college and then to professional if they want to. Education is just so big right now, and there's just so many ways that you can get a degree and still play in on your favorite games. So I think having a way to really show parents that esports, playing a video game while in college, or even being on the production team or social management team, just being involved some way, that parents need to understand that it is happening and it can, and if they accept it, I think other people will too. And then just moving forward from high school to college to pro.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And of course, that's why we've built out a lot of our platform the way we have is because, we see that and we see that that pipeline needs to exist and it needs to be far reaching in order for everybody to, I guess, benefit from it, right? I mean, if you look at even just comparing, I don't usually like comparing esports to traditional sports, but if you just compare the number of like people that play in college to the people that go pro, it's less than 1%, right? It's such a small number. And with esports, where it is something that's more widely accessible, that number is going to be even greater because there's still going to exist the same number of professional, semi-professional, amateur teams, whatever else. But there's going to be a boatload more people that play these games than are necessarily playing NCAA basketball, right? So that number is going to be even closer to 0% than it is in traditional sports. So, like you said, the education piece and like making sure that people understand kind of all the avenues that they can take in ways that they can, I guess, benefit from so many other fields in esports. Like, I guess from your perspective, right? Like, what are things that people could be learning now? Like, if a high schooler is listening to this, what are some things that they could be learning now that would, I guess, best set them up for a career in esports, not necessarily a professional player?
Sure. Be more professional. I know a lot of times when people are streaming, they kind of forget that someone might be watching or taking a video. And getting your account banned on anything it's a big setback. You won't be able to play, you won't be able to interact, and it's just trying to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings. But then also, creating those VODs, creating that social media content where people can see you and expressing yourself that way too. Because if I can't find you. How do I know that you want to play or that you want to be on my team? So just trying to really be aware of your surroundings and um, also working on your social media. It's just so huge right now.
Oh, it's everything. It's, I mean, Twitter, TikTok, even
TikTok, yeah.
even Snapchat. I mean, people are like beating people on Snapchat. It's crazy.
Hmm.
Like it's just like high school wasn't even that far away from me, but like I'm looking at the stuff like high school is happening right now, and I'm like, I don't know like where to even begin. I don't know how people are keeping up. Um, what are some things that you think are unique to your program that like set your program apart from other necessary, let's just say programs in Minnesota or just programs across the Midwest or programs in the country? What are some unique things that you think people should know about your program?
That's a great question. We have, we've got our three teams. We've got a dedicated facility and a dedicated broadcasting team. We're also very new, so we're open to um, any extra games. So if people want to come and go to the university and play, we're definitely open to more titles. We just need students to be here, and I think that's something that we can capitalize on because some schools just have their games, and I feel like every year you're gonna rotate games anyways if you don't have the skill. But just being so new, we're still growing, we're still structuring, so having the ability to just change things, we're very adaptable.
Totally. I mean, that's of course, like you said, one of the benefits of having a new program. I want to touch more on that the broadcast piece too, because that's what I don't think. That's one of the things that even the people inside the industry, I don't think fully quite understand. I guess what that looks like long term and how it's beneficial for the industry as a whole long term, but not even that, just necessarily how important it is from the pure profitability of a program, whether that's a professional org or a collegiate program, whatever else. So I guess how are you approaching the broadcasting side of things? Like, is this something that you are bringing in expert help for? Is this something that like, what things are you focusing on with your students? Like, can somebody join your program as a pro player or as a player and as a broadcasting, or are you kind of meshing the two together?
They definitely can. If someone wants to be a player and want to a caster work on the production team, that's completely fine. We do have a dedicated broadcasting team. We were fortunate enough to have that set up for us already. Their department just really hopped on and they were very generous and very willing to go all hands in. We have VMix as our streaming software and we are partnered on Twitch through Twitch Student. That was pretty exciting to get. Um, but then I think production, it's just such a huge thing. You can have value added to your streams. You can monetize that, but then also your casters are letting people know what's going on during a game, and it's not just silent. That's just so huge. Just watching someone on stream and not knowing what's going on can get a little bit boring, and people aren't going to know. But then you have parents watching too, and they just might not understand. So having a caster really explain things to them, I think is important. But then the people behind the scenes that are switching everything on your stream deck to making sure everything sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, it's all accessibility at that point. Like the more you can, I guess, bridge the gap from expert to non-expert, the more you can kind of meet people in the middle there, the better, right? And I mean, that's why obviously there's commentators for NFL. It's that like they can point out to you like where a holding happened when otherwise you'd be like, I didn't see number 76 hold the guy at all. Like I don't know. In the same way, like I'm obviously I work in esports. I'm an esports professional, and like I understand for a large degree a lot of moving pieces. But like it's very beneficial for me when I'm watching like the LCS Worlds for League of Legends, and I'm like, okay, I have no idea where that blue light came from, and I don't know who shot that projectile, but somebody died really quickly, and somebody's excited about it. But then like the casters will tell you who it was and who made the play and give you more in-depth stuff, and so it's even beneficial for just the people in it. So I mean, broadcasting is just, I make this argument to people all the time is that like it's something that really should be harped on and like, I guess, incentivized for people to do simply because the more visibility and accessibility you can bring to the space, the better. And broadcasting and production is one of the number one ways to do that. So that's awesome to hear that you guys are doing it. And I think that's one of the things that to me sets a lot of programs apart from other programs is that they don't just focus on the pure competition of it, which obviously is something I love. I love winning a lot in a lot of things, but like, that you're also focusing on like making sure that, there's other opportunities for people to, I guess, become a part of that. Are you guys working on like developing a sort of like a bachelor's degree for esports, or are there other degree paths within the university that relate back to your program yet?
There's definite talks about it. A lot of professors at the university have heard about our varsity program and want to get their hands on it somehow. So there's nothing like set in stone, but even myself, I'm willing to go back to school to get a doctorate just so I could teach a esports degree. Hopefully in the next couple of years we might see something at our university, but we'll just have to see.
I mean, do it. I'll take the class.
Right?
Be beneficial for somebody. Are you guys doing scholarships for your program?
We will be in the future. Right now, we just have our scholarships that are offered through our university, and there are thousands of scholarships. There's definitely opportunity for them, and hopefully in the future, we'll be able to offer a specific esports scholarship.
That's awesome. I look forward to that. That number of schools doing that is growing more and more every day. So I mean, it's cool to hear that you guys are doing that as well, especially in an area that like, you think about like, high dollar universities and programs giving away, thousands upon thousands of dollars and like doing all these things. You think, you know, California, Texas, Northeast. And it's cool to hear that you guys are doing that even in places like Minnesota, and there's programs doing it in, Idaho, and there's no matter where you go in the country, you still have the same opportunities to be able to do these variety of different things. And I think that's so cool that you guys are doing that where you are, because let's face it, if somebody's talking about starting something big, they're going to go to New York or California. But we also need to also recognize that there are well-equipped people, and there's passion, and there's passion, and there's drive, and there's love for the industry as a whole across the entire country. And I think everybody deserves an equal access to be able to partake in that field. And so it's cool that you guys are doing that in a place that is Minnesota and not in the Northeast or California. I love that. I'm tired of seeing stuff about California schools. No offense, California.
Yeah, no, thanks. Hype us up some more. We'll get some more students.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the whole point, right? Is that, the more visibility and stuff you can bring, the more visibility and accessibility you can showcase to the space, the more parents buy in, the more students realize that, hey, this is actually something that I can pursue. I'm not just really good at Call of Duty on my free time. This is actually something that I can build a career off of just simply because I'm good at this game. Whether you end up, being a long-term professional player or having some sort of professional career, you can at least build the building blocks to be able to, like, I guess, get to that point. So you mentioned obviously being professional in that social media presence for I guess, let's say there's a student out there that is, wildly talented at their game, and they have all the skills necessary to be successful in that game. What are some other things that students who are already well adept to the esports industry as a whole, what are some things that they can begin working on right now that would give them the best building blocks for success, whether that be at your program or in a professional sense?
Reaching out to industry experts, I think, also helps. Even just throwing yourself out there on a Twitter and tagging some people, or joining webinars. There's thousands of webinars that are going on throughout the whole semester, and just hopping in and listening to how things are developing. Esports really moves so fast. I think it was said best in one of the webinars I was in. It 1 year in traditional esports is 15 years in traditional sports. So things are just changing. And then being able to adapt on the fly, like rules change and new characters come out, and just being able to be an expert yourself and growing your own personal worth is just gonna really help in the long run.
So in an industry where even the people leading in the industry are still kind of figuring it out as you go, what are some things that you're doing to guess kind of like stay ahead of that curve, right? You were just talking about being able to change on the fly. What are some things that I guess you're focusing on like right now in the present to, I guess, help you get to that point that you're like, I'm ready for this next change?
I'm definitely looking into webinars myself, and to also see what I need to bring students to our program, and like we mentioned a little bit before, what we can do to create a esports track, a degree, because I think that would be a staple for our university, and be able to have that. I would just love to we have a varsity program and we have an esports degree. Come and have a dream job.
Literally, yeah. I mean that's the selling point. Like, I mean, oh my gosh, you'd have so many applicants for that one program. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, even off the top of my head, I can only think of maybe 3 or 4 schools, like right off the top
Yeah.
that have it.
I think there might be 10 total in all of North America, and not all of them are the same. And I've spoken to several people, and they're run through like sports management or just creating your own, and it's just trying to figure out what you want that degree to be.
So give me your hot esports take, right? So mine is, well, I mean, I have several, but one of mine is that I think we should stop comparing. I think that the more we try to run esports like traditional sports, the more it's going to hinder its growth, right? Or another, for example, I think that no battle royale will ever be a viable long-term esport, right? So see hot
Sad.
take, exactly, right? Sorry,
Yeah.
but hot take.
Warzone, I'll get it eventually.
So give me your esports hot take. What is something that you think about the esports industry that you don't think anybody else agrees with you on?
Well, I think that's kind of the same line as yours. Like it when you say esports, it's not just esports. Like each game is its own esport. It's League of Legends, it's Rocket League, it's Smash. Like those are all like I was thinking about this morning. I need an entire team to really help build each game, and just trying to do it by myself, it gets stressful. If I fail, then is it because I'm a failure? It's because I'm a woman? And so just making sure people are aware that it's not just esports. They're individual games. People know different skills. There's just so many variables and variety, and that people need to understand that it's not just one thing.
So we know that Call of Duty is, of course, your favorite game. What do you think is the best esport?
I think League of Legends, just because they have the backing of the fans and the sponsors, and I mean worlds. People, if the biggest comparison we can give to people is that in 2018, what was it, 98 million people watched Worlds, and compared to 100 million people watched the Super Bowl, and that was just in 2018.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I know. It's
I get it.
it's growing. My other games are growing, but it League of Legends it's got just that backing. So
That dog, man, that's lame. No, League of Legends is great. I can never understand it, and it makes me upset. So I guess sidetrack again. What is your favorite Call of Duty?
right now, Modern Warfare, all time probably Black Ops 2.
Huh?
Um, but that I really like the campaign. I did get Cold War. I got it more for zombies because I haven't played zombies like 4 or 5 years, and so just being able to go back, and it's just the nostalgia of the whole game. The whole franchise is great that they keep coming out with content and everything, and I'm addicted.
Do you think that they should move away from the full price $60 game every year? I mean, people keep buying it, so it's not like stop. But I mean, do you think that they should move towards more free to play or cheaper model? Like, what do you think they should do?
I think that's a hard question to ask because there's just so much that they put into it. $60 every year really isn't that much. If you're trying to get every single game every year, it might be, but it's one time, and I think it's a fair price. You get a lot for the content, and then they have updates throughout the whole year that you're gonna get for free anyways. So just spending the extra $60, I think it's worth it.
True. My only argument to that is, I guess, nobody ever really puts out a finished game anymore. That like people put out you buy a game like when it first comes out or like download a game knowing that in 3 days there's going to be like a drastic change to something so that it actually works the way it's supposed to. And that seems to be the common trend. So that's my only argument away from the
Yeah.
$60 model is that like if it's
Yeah.
finished, I'll pay you $60, but we may need to wait until February to get there.
Okay, I can agree with that.
But yeah, it's interesting, how all these different companies are finding success in a variety of different ways. Like I think aside from sports games, Call of Duty is really the only other game that's been able to thrive off of the full price game model. I mean, there's obviously full price like single player games like the new Assassin's Creed or God of War or whatever else. But strictly from an esports perspective, it seems that free to play and decrease in like ease of access to the sport or the game rather is kind of more or less the trend. But yeah, no, it's interesting. So, couple parting things before we go here. I want to give you kind of the floor to, I guess, give us, for anybody that may be listening that's interested in Minnesota State at Mankato, there it is. I fixed it. Minnesota State University, Mankato. I guess give us the rundown of your program. Give us the pitch. Give us, for anybody that's listening that is interested, even in the slightest about your program, give us the rundown. Where can they find more information? How can they reach out about it?
Definitely. So we're a new up-and-coming program. We're really excited. We have 3 titles for spring, like we talked about, League of Legends, CSGO, and Rocket League. So we'll definitely be looking for players in the fall for those as well. You can go to esports.mnsu.edu, and all of our socials from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat is esportsmnsu. We have a dedicated facility that can have up to 15 people when COVID allows it.
Yeah.
And we're just really excited. So for fall, we're going to be looking for Call of Duty players and Smash players as well. So we'll hopefully have 5 titles that we can offer our students.
That's awesome. I love it. You're doing great work. Obviously, we love to see new programs coming about every single day. Every semester, it seems that another college is doing another program. And I love, of course, seeing obviously a woman in esports being successful and running a program. I think that's awesome. But to see that your program is actually having some success and growing and continuously improving is just another little bit of icing on the cake to the whole thing. So congratulations to you and a well-run program. It was really great having you on the show. I really appreciate you coming on and elaborating more of kind of your thoughts on everything from your unique perspective in your situation. So obviously we'll of course direct as many people as we can in the Minnesota area to your program. We will give you all the shout outs and everything on our socials, but that'll do it for this episode of the SPINcast. Again, this is Jacquie Lamm from Minnesota State Mankato. I am Gray from Stay Plugged In.